Hello everyone and welcome. This is another daily market review video for 24th of August 2026, where I will be reviewing three stocks in small cap space. Those will be BTCT, SDOT and XPON. So without any further ado, let's get into the first one, which is BTCT, related to crypto. And at 9:20 a.m., which is 10 minutes before the market open, I took a look at my watch list and my scanners, and what I saw that based on my filters that I have for small caps, this was the leading stock in terms of how much volume it did. It had 49 million shares traded already at 9:20, and then I also look at the float, which was 9.5 million, so fairly low, although I'm trading stocks which are lower float as well. And then one more interesting stat is that it had almost 20% of short float, which meant that fifth of its shares that are available for trading were shorted, were borrowed short, which means that if there is a squeeze, it is susceptible to squeeze out the shorts more than your regular average stock, which does not have a high uh, short float, right? Okay, so the flow as always looks something like this, where I go to the daily chart and then I mark the daily levels which are of most interest. And this time, this was not the move of the first day for BTCT, but it has been moving for a couple of days already, with the first day being 19th of August. But then the volume of most interest was 180, where that was the high of this day too. And I'm marking that one right here. And if we look at the pre-market movement, we can see that it was pretty well respected as resistance, which meant that there's gonna be some interesting action around this level. And I was planning to see whether it's gonna be a resistance after the opening drive as well, or whether it's gonna be a breakout point. So changing it up to 1 minute chart and then fast forwarding an hour or so into the open, we can see that in the first hour the breakout did happen. So once again marking this 180 level, we can see that the movement around the open initially was, fairly choppy, and it did not have such a huge volume, especially considering that this is a very, very low priced stock. We can see that it did 600k, 200k, etc., but that the volume picked up only after 10 a.m., where we really exploded in volume, as this stock had a couple of million shares traded per minute, which is a lot different. And I think that sort of the breaking point was this movement right here, where we were decently strong during the pre-market, and definitely 180 acted as a resistance. And the last time we would try to peak it, the fade down started, and at the open it looked like we may get faded down, especially seeing as on the daily it was overextended short term. Like the move on last week happened from 50 cents, and now we were at 3x that and even more. So it piqued the interest of shorts and we started going down. However, there was this base right here around 150, where we found support, and after that support it was sort of like a launching pad for the stock, and we started grinding towards VWAP and we started consolidating below VWAP. You can see this range compression here, which means that this uh, range right here is now accepted. The price is being accepted by the participants. We're not getting chopped up and down. And then on this breakout, after it happened, it pretty much squeezed out the shorts that got in here or maybe got in on one of the previous days. And you can see that by the sheer speed that this move had, where it was pretty tough to get in for a breakout. Most typical breakout needs to have a touch, and then there should be a small pullback, price acceptance. It should look something like this where we broke VWAP, but it should be on this level, which is very significant. So I can show the 10-second chart as well of how it happened. This was around 10 a.m. So as we can see, it was fairly inactive, and then at one point we had a huge pop of volume, 70k in 10 seconds, which is a lot, which could pique the interest of the bulls. And then we started this small pattern, and after that it was a huge squeeze up, and we did not stop after that. So that is the interesting part I wanted to share. Now the stock has some other moves that it did, but I'm mostly focusing on what is my main edge and what am I looking at. And my main edge is related to breakouts, bounces, and predominantly at this time frame of 9:30 to 11 a.m. So in the future, as I develop more edges, I may share more, but for now, this is the interesting part that I wanted to share. So let's get into the second stock. So second stock was XPON, and it's pretty interesting to share because it formed a pattern which can be really awesome as a breakout, but it did not have follow through. And it could be a nice lesson to show that even though there is a good pattern, it does not mean that it will work. And the pattern is the following. So we have some resistance, which is, in this case, was 889, and we respected it in the pre-market. And then at the open, we pretty much formed the opening range from 750-ish to 889, and we touched twice. It was on high volume, but it got rejected both times, and it was definitely a level which was now interesting, and it got a lot of players involved there. So you can look at it as we got some players involved here, shorts, which have their stop right here, and then this time new players, this time new short players, and the stop makes sense to be above this level, which is now high a day. So when we started moving down, we got other short players interested, and we grinded below VWAP. So the next move that could have happened was the total fade, getting back to the lows. However, we started this up move, slow and steady, on a bit of a lower volume compared to the peaks, but still it was every time the swing low was higher and higher, and bought, and then we consolidated around VWAP, and on increased volume we started grinding now towards this high a day. So it's a good setup when you see this flow of a stock where you have a clear resistance at the open, we get a nasty rejection, we fall below the VWAP. That way we trap the shorts, but then after an hour or half an hour of consolidation, we start grinding above VWAP and we break this high of day. So this was the play that one could aim for here. However, there was no follow through here. As we can see, this candle was nastily rejected downwards, and this setup would not have worked, even though it's a high probability setup overall. So that's it regarding XPON. And the last stock I wanted to share is SDOT. So for that one, SDOT, looking at the daily chart, there's a bunch of levels already marked, probably from the past, but what is of most interest to us is this level right here, which was in this context of 24th of August. This was the second day for SDOT, as on the first day we had almost 20 million shares traded, and the high was 1990. So we're marking that level. And when you're playing second day plays, you're looking to see how the stock is going to react to the yesterday day's high or yesterday day's low, etc. But essentially significant levels from the day before. And in this case, if we zoom out and go back in time, we can see that after hours and pre-market, this was a level which was significant and respected, and we finally broke it around 7 a.m., formed a pre-market high in 2550-ish, so marking that level makes sense as well. And this is what was a possible trade. At the open, first we were choppy in terms of we did not have a clear and clean candle up followed by a nice pullback. What we had instead was a bunch of candles which went up and down, but one thing you could see is that there was a trend up and that there were these higher lows that the stock made throughout this morning period of first half hour, and 2550, which was a pre-market high. And you can see in my videos that pre-market high for small caps is a really respected level. Now, it's not always simple to tell like whether it's gonna be a rejection price or a breakout price, but definitely it is respected, and it is much more significant than other levels. Which is why you see most patterns revolve around these. For instance, one could do a front side short as we go up to this level. You could short the front side with a lower risk because it's a front side move, and then you can aim to get the profits as it turns back, especially on this first touch, because it's not that common to see a stock just surge through the pre-market high on the first try. Although for BTCT we saw that it does not always happen. So as always, no matter how good something looks like or how probable it seems based on the earlier data, you never know. Even for the best setups, they may not work because you don't know how many participants are involved in which way, and you don't have all the informations. So always be careful and just try to develop your edges tailored to you, and then test them, forward test them, back test them, and always look at them as a trading sample, trading set, not as a single trade outcome, but as a set outcome, because every single trade is statistically irrelevant by itself. But if you look at a set of comparable trades, then you can draw some conclusions with more confidence. But in this case, what was possible as a breakout trade was breaking of this level here. You can see that there was a wedge right here, so we're making this sort of a pattern, and then as we break it, we can see the volume also increased right there, and then the stop would be below the low of the wedge, or it could be below the previous swing low, and then the target could be making a measured move, which is precisely what happened here. If we say from the open, so from 21 to 25, that was about 4.3. So if we apply that, that's almost 30, and this is actually what happened. So this is another concept that you will see a lot. I think it's prevalent in mid caps and large caps, but you could also see it a lot in small caps space as well, where you have this measured move. So when there is a turning point, inflection point, the move that it can make into a direction of the trend can likely be the same as the move it already did from the lows up until that inflection point. So that's what I had for today. These are the 3 stocks. Let me know if you had some other small cap stocks that you thought were a better chance on this day, and let me know if you have any comments for the content of this video. And of course, if you like it, subscribe to the channel. I will be sharing this content in the upcoming period as I go on this journey trying to become a consistently profitable trader. Okay, thanks for tuning in.